My name is Andrew, and in this video I'll be reflecting on my practice as a lecturer in terms of quality assurance and enhancement. I've been asked to talk about my own teaching, to consider the roles of other colleagues within my school, and to think about the internal or external factors that impact on quality assurance. This investigation should assist me in gauging the success or otherwise of my teaching in qualitative terms. I've selected a number of publications to help me in this task, and I hope that they're going to allow me to see where my piece of the jigsaw fits into the bigger teaching picture at school level. The jigsaw analogy was offered to us by one of our lecturers in CPAD, and it has been very useful in describing the challenge faced by new teachers. The dean of my school gave me a timely reminder that I should always think not only of quality but also of standards. The two are interrelated obviously, but I do need to be aware of the demands of each. Now this document, the UK Professional Standards Framework, to which we were introduced at the very start of CPAD, is a document that I can use to assess my progress thus far. So for curricular design, I can argue that I am now successfully engaged with each the dimensions of the framework. For example, in area A1, yes, I am involved in the designing and planning of learning activities and or programs of studying. Core knowledge, section K2, yes, I believe I am aware of the appropriate methods for teaching and assessing, so I use workshops, guest lectures, go through reflexive essays, presented pitches. I'm offering an effective selection of different methods. Professional values, V1, I am sensitive to the diversity and individuality of my learners, and this year I positively encouraged a number of final films that grew from the personal cultural experiences of my students, and themes such as racism, sexuality, prejudice were some of the areas where students wanted to use their own experience in their storytelling. In April 2016, the Quality Assurance Agency published a draft update of their subject benchmark statement for film. This document here has actually made it very easy for me to consider my progress in contributing to and enhancing quality. In section 4.4, do I engage my students with processes and practices appropriately? I believe I can answer yes, I do develop this knowledge in a qualitative fashion. For example, before students make a film, they have to pitch the idea to me and prove that they know what they're making, who it's for, why they're making it. It's not just art for art's sake. And in fact, an enhancement that I've added to quality is the screenplay checkpoint system. So no film can be made until several draft versions of the screenplay have been seen and then signed off and then improved. When I look at subject-specific skills in the document, I'm asking, do my students end up with the ability to analyse critically? Well, yes, I think they do. An enhancement that I've introduced here to further the quality and value of analysis is to insist that my first year students engage in peer assessment of one another's films. Now within my school I have colleagues who also understand the importance of quality assurance and enhancement. How does the QAA sit within learning and teaching?
What I tend to think now is that the checks and balances, which is often what quality assurance comes down to, are actually kind of useful. They help me to understand the kind of soft, squishy, utopian stuff that I think happens anyway, which is, can I be reassured that what I do is good? Can I see whether the stuff that I do and that my colleagues do needs to be changed, adapted, challenged? It's almost like learning and teaching is what we do in the classroom perhaps, and quality is how we make sure that's working.
Ivan's comments support the sense that as a lecturer I am part of a team that exists beyond the confines of my own module or programme. Thus, matters of quality are the concern of colleagues throughout the school. And this is something that's reinforced by the Dean of Creative Arts, Judy Glasman.
And of course the benchmarks, which are sort of halfway between mandatory and guidelines. We need to use those because those give us a good sense of perhaps a core of knowledge that our students need, core of knowledge, core of skills. And of course we're obliged to actually design those into our documents through periodic review, through initial validations and so on. But I guess there's a bigger use of them insofar as you can use them in perhaps a very mechanistic way, which is just designing your course document and then putting it back on the shelf. But I think that we could probably make more use of them as part of our general activity, because there's other sections that go beyond just describing the learning outcomes in there. So, for example, they give a good picture of the culture of learning and teaching in the subject.
An increasingly important external indicator of quality, and one which came into being long after my own university student experience, is the National Student Survey, the NSS. For example, one student wrote of feedback, it's brilliant when it says what's good and why, then what's inadequate and why, and then what you might have done to make it better. The last bit is the gap that has to be filled. There's no point in getting feedback unless it really helps you in some way. I was scared out of my wits of my tutor, and even when I went to see him I used to shake so much. Now I hope that I managed to offer a friendly enough persona in order to keep students willing to speak to me. This sort of NSS feedback pushes me towards enhancements that may include smaller group breakouts and so on, obviously resources permitting. In CPAD we were introduced to a significant number of further factors that impact on quality. So for example, the periodic review or a validation process. On top of this, we were asked to at least consider the input of professional bodies, outside consultants, other surveys beyond the NSS, formal or informal graduate feedback, accreditation bodies and so on. Now in the latter category we are in the process of obtaining accreditation from SELECT, which is actually the International Association of Film and Television Schools. This would put us on a par with some big international players such as UCLA, California, and New York University. I think it's just time to consider another qualitative indicator in the form of the role undertaken by external examiners.
In my experience of external examining, in essence, the role of the external examiner is to provide some sense of parity between the institution and other parallel institutions across the country. So some parity of levels and between one university and another, as well as some sense of the relationship between what's taught in the university and external national frameworks such as the subject benchmarks, which apply to all higher education providers.
In conclusion, I believe that my approach to teaching is already influenced by the concept of quality assurance and enhancement. I'm not working in a void, so my work is further nudged towards qualitative goals by my colleagues within the school. And finally, I do understand a little more clearly the internal and external factors that influence quality, and as I move forward in my career I do fully expect to become increasingly engaged with all of them, and I take that as a very good sign and also as a result of my experiences in CPAD. Anyway, thank you very much for listening.